that if she's.
Here's Miss Erin. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. Those of you that are online, those of you that are here with us, staff, administration, our gallery of people, thank you for joining us. Today is Tuesday, July 12th, 2022, and we want to call to order the special meeting of the South Euclid-Lyndhurst Board of Education. Tonight is our work session. May we get a roll call, Mr. Hill?
Ms. Falkenberg,
Here.
Mrs. Jones,
Here.
Ms. King,
Here.
Ms. Lee,
Here.
Mrs. Ryan.
Here. Perfect. We can go right into those discussion items, Dr. Reed?
Okay. Well, good evening, everybody. Happy summer. This evening, we're going to talk about some of the work we've been doing over the last few months in collaboration with administrators and mostly our teaching staff. And I want to lead off with actually revisiting our district's vision, mission, and core beliefs, because the nature of our work should really center around these things. And you know, that doggone pandemic seemed to put a lot of things on the back burner. And just a little history. I mean, we developed these items probably back in 2013 with our first strategic plan. And then we redid our strategic plan in 2018, and we called it Destination 2023. As we know that in 2020, that was interrupted. And what we did was we didn't forget about our strategic plan, because there are things that we accomplished on it, and that'll be for another meeting. But what we knew what was happening is we had to look at some of the items on the strategic plan that were relevant, and then there were just some things that really weren't relevant at all because based on the pandemic. And so came the RRR plan, which was the reopening, I think, recovery, reopening, revitalization plan. And that was developed actually kind of to mirror an extension to our strategic plan, because we also knew that we would be getting some federal dollars with regards to COVID and things like that. And so we really have followed that plan. Now, lo and behold, it's something to think about, everybody. We are in the 2022-2023 school year. So that means that Destination 2023 really will supposedly expire in the summer, or I should say in the spring. So that's a discussion we can probably have. I really think it's a great time, maybe after we open up the school year and start in January, that we embark again on our strategic plan. I think people are willing to meet in person again. I think it will reconnect people from the community and re-engage what we have. I'm not saying that we need to change our vision, mission, and core beliefs, because I think as I read through them, you're going to see that a lot of it is still very relevant. And that, so, you know, you start with the vision, you know, it used to say we will be the destination school community, and we drought will be, and we want to be always the destination school community. And that can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. And I know people use the term life is a journey. Yes, life is a journey, but you don't always just have one destination. You know, we create your latest one and your next one, and we're finding out that we actually are hiring employees that want to make South Euclid-Lyndhurst community their home. They have moved. We have hired them. They have moved here, and they have enrolled their children in our schools. So what a great honor for, you know, that we are that place. And it also reminds me, and people remind me sometimes, you know, Dr. Reed, if we really want to be the destination, we need to take another look at this. And they're right. And I think this is a perfect opportunity that when I talk about the nature of our work tonight, is I think we need to take a look at our shared expectations and procedures and really kind of reboot and do school. My colleagues and I would tell you it's been a challenging year. I'm sure you'd have teachers tell you that. I'm sure you have security guards or safety forces, everybody. I'm sure you'd have people in your own walk of life to say it's been a challenging year. So I want to read through some of the core beliefs and then go through some of the work that we've done. And the reason I'm reading it through, I know the folks here can read it, but those at home can't. And I think it's important. So, you know, you talk about high achievement, high expectations leads to high achievement. And again, you're going to see the nature of our work. Let me see if I can scroll this here for a second. Hold on. There we go. Okay. We want to still keep that. What are our expectations collectively? Education must focus on academic, social, emotional, and physical needs of our students. Diversity strengthens and enriches our communities. Students must take ownership of their education. And then you can see as we read through this, there's really a lot that can apply to what the work I'm going to talk about and moving forward. Education is the responsibility of the entire community. Open and honest communication is critical to effective relationships. And that's key. We use that one a lot. The best education is achieved in a safe and stimulating environment. Again, a great core belief as we talk about moving forward with rebooting education in SEL and, and our shared expectations. And the demands of the future and the lessons of the past shape our educational practices. So I really think these are really good core beliefs that were developed collectively with a lot of different types of stakeholders. And I bring that up today because I think we need to remember why we're doing our work, and I'm going to encourage our principals who are listening or anybody else is that we got to keep this in the forefront. Otherwise, we forget why we're doing what we're doing. And so I want to move into a little bit of the work that we've done and give a little bit of background. We went into this school year, and a lot of people say, well, why was this school year tougher than last school year? Well, the 2021 school, you got to remember, a lot of it was remotely, and it was not, it wasn't like your typical schooling and the demands. And so we went into this school year with the commitment that what was best was that in-person learning was what was best for students, everybody, and that came with its challenges. Back in August, I told my team, I'm going to use the word stamina. And I said, we're all going to have to build up stamina. That includes our students, our teachers, our staff, us as administrators, and our families. And what I mean by that means it wasn't good enough to get out of bed and come to work or school 3 days a week. It had to be 5 days a week. It wasn't enough that, I'm going to attend. I have 6 classes, and I just have enough of my fill after 4. And we saw a lot of that. And stamina of even the pressure, it's a lot different getting up and going to your computer and teaching than getting up, driving a half hour to 40 minutes and putting in a full day and different things like that. And again, not judgment statements. So these were things when you talk about there were learning gaps. We were putting new initiatives in place. There was still, you got to remember, we started the year with whether some places were still remote, but we committed to in-person. There were polarized opinions about whether to mask or not to mask. That has an emotional drain on a lot of different people. We had the good news, we felt like we kept everybody safe. We did not have clusters and outbreak, but we had people very tired towards winter break. And we were experiencing the illnesses that you typically experience along with some COVID. And then we did not really start taking the mask away, the mandated mask, until March. So what I need to let everybody know is that it was not a typical year. And so what we started to recognize as an administrative team, as a leadership team, and also our teachers is that we were spent and really felt like, we had a meeting on March 3rd and with teachers and administrators, and it was really talking about how do we move forward. And one of the things was important is, you could have all the academic plans and courses, but if I go back to one of the core beliefs there is the best education is achieved in a safe and stimulating environment, is that we really felt like, we had to get back on the same page of why we're doing what we're doing. And the students have the same expectations. The teachers have the same expectations. The K-3 buildings, we have 3 different K-3 buildings. Do they have the same expectations? And so we were, going through with, so why are we doing this? And again, this is just an example. Is why do we want to have shared expectations and procedures in our district? Well, we're an educational institution. Instruction is a priority, and it better be a priority, and we better protect that. And so every moment in the classroom, we have to be speaking the same message. And I think that's what we were missing, is every moment in the classroom is critical in providing our students with highly effective research-based instructional practices, assessments to guides toward mastery and intervention to close learning gaps. You know, we could put more there, but I just want to capture, we have to remember, why are we here doing our work? So what do we want to accomplish? And so what we wanted to accomplish was work on shared expectations and procedures at the building level. Identify expectations and building systems that support the district's commitment to equity, diversity, and inclusion, and the tenets of conscious discipline. So I mentioned that too, is it's not like we just want to put shared expectations and procedures that really conflict with the philosophy that the district and the board has adopted. So again, try to keep everybody focused. So I give you a little bit of a snapshot. Well, what does that really mean? And you know, consistency is important for our students and also maintains clear communication expectations for our staff. So again, if you have, you know, say you have 10 fourth grade teachers, and again, these are not judgment statements, but they share students, and one expectation is this in this classroom, but another expectation is Y in this classroom. Well, it serves nobody well, the student nor the teacher, because when they're trying to do something, and then, you know, maybe it's that one becomes a write-up and a referral. In one class, it's a little bit more acceptable to do that. And so again, it was important that there was consistency. This is part of our, you know, conscious discipline, is connection before correction. And I think that's the piece of really making that connection with students. And so as you think of procedures, as you think of things, is you know, we also must think about, are we doing things to make connections and that. So, you know, establishing relationship before instruction is a basis for successfully reaching our students. I mean, one of the things that was brought up at the meeting by a few teachers was, you know, before we hit the ground running with our instruction, let's lay out, what's that going to look like in August? Do we take the first 3 days? Do we have something where our freshmen are new, or we have those transition grades where more time might be needed to lay those expectations rather than with seniors with that know that? And so I think this is, again, connection before correction is really also making that connection with them as well. And then going back to it, you know, making every minute count. So our goal is to keep students in the classroom as much as possible, because, and then so how do we help that to happen? And that's just not the responsibility of the teacher. I'm going to go back to up here, and again, students must take ownership of their education. So that's the piece where, you know, also this is just not about us fixing something. This is about a collective effort and a process of you know, I don't want to say relearn. It almost feels like in some cases we had to build that stamina, relearn formal schooling, so to speak, with regards to having that stamina. You know, and then accountability is key. So, so who did this involved? And I just naming it might have looked a little bit different, you know. But we have building leadership teams. Mostly certified staff was involved, but I'm going to encourage as we move forward that your classified staff. I know that I do believe that some of that input was given by safety services, and it'll continue. But, you know, there's nothing wrong with involving our food service staff with cafeteria, not one of the easiest places to work, or even the playground area as well. And then we have, you know, building advisory committees and as well. So that consists of different teachers and administrators. When did we do this? Well, we took advantage of those early release Wednesdays that we had. And there were certain things that were planned, but there was building choice. And so we felt, and I'm going to turn a little bit over to, you know, Ray and Dom and Melissa and talk about this piece, was we really wanted to feel like we got something done before everybody went home. We knew it was not going to be enough time. So we got through some April dates, and I'm going to have them talk about those things. And we really had some expected deliverables. We don't want to just talk and admire the problem. A lot of times people do that. We wanted to get some things done. And then because our goal was, we had a June 1st retreat to see like what came together. We wanted the voices of everybody to be heard, not just administrators. And then we have an August retreat where we really want to continue that movement, and then you're going to see next steps in a moment. So, you know, here's some of the things right here that, you know, April 13th, I'll read it, and again, I'll look over if there's something that you want to add. You know, you can go and come up with just, I'm always the point is you got to manage your own change. So don't come up with so many things that you can't manage it or it's too much for the kids to know. And I'm going to say right now, I think when I look at what we came up with, we have an abundance of stuff. I'm going to say when they go back to the building levels, let's consider age group, age appropriateness, and making sure that it's enough and not too much for them to understand, and make sure that you don't have too much where you can't manage it. Because you could put something out there, and if you cannot react to it or respond to it, I like the word respond better. If you can't respond to it, then those just become words to those students, and then what you've worked on become nothing else. So we asked them to share, 5 shared building or system expectations, what leaders are going to do, other staff members are going to do, what students. So just for example is like hallway. Transitions are always one of those times where, so what do you expect the students to do during hallway transitions? But what are you expecting the staff to do? Are they to be at their doors? Are they to be, at a certain spot, assigned spot? And really, what are the administrators supposed to be doing? So really not just saying something, what does that look like? And then when you talk about your vision for your building, I don't want to confuse things, but everything we do has to tie to the district's mission. And then 2 or 3 non-negotiables, audit action items related to that. So I don't know whether before I move on, because there are some different things, is there anything else that you want to add or input to that?
The
first
only thing
one?
I would say is Ray and I had the opportunity to lead 2 of the meetings, the April 13th and the April 20th at Brush High School. We didn't want to put Mr. Williamson in an awkward spot during his transition. And, those 5 shared building expectations, what we came up with as staff, it came down to communication. Communication of those things that Did has talked about. And from there, we developed our non-negotiables. We started with the adults, said, okay, how do we act? Where are our spots at? How do we want the children to respond to those? And we did little breakout groups. And one thing that we found out, to be totally transparent, was, like Dr. Reed said, was including those security guards. And we included them in the second meeting. We had them, they actually went into the groups without unprompted to, with the teachers. Started talking about trouble spots, transitions, different things. And just that communication of where students go, where they're supposed to be, and how do you deliver that message to the parents? How do you deliver that message to the students at the beginning of the school year and setting the tone? We firmly believe, I used it at Memorial, was you set the tone, you get through the first 3 weeks, and then it becomes your norm. And what were those norms? And then what Mr. Fording and his group did, not to skip down, but at the June 1st retreat, was we had their 5 things that they labeled as their top 5, and then from there, how the staff's gonna do it, how the students should do it, and how the administration's gonna do it. And then their team started building off of those 5 things, and then actually Ray and I got invited back by the Brush BAC, which is the Building Advisory Committee, in May, and then we followed up with Mike, and then he's meeting with them again this summer a couple times just to finalize everything. So at that first staff meeting, when he and his team are ready to go, those 5 new expectations are going to be presented and given almost like a template game plan, whatever you want to call it, on how they're going to attack those 5 things. So I think just that consistency is going to be the key. And like I said, the communication piece, and the communication kind of fell apart in some levels, from security down to the teachers, down to the administration, what the policy is, what the procedure is, and it's just the overall consistency of it is what we found.
And I will say, as a whole, with all the principals, this was a lot of work in a little bit of time. I mean,
Yes.
we really gave them a
Yes.
big charge in a little bit of time. And with the teachers present, I think it was an eye-opener for a lot of our administrators that when the teachers had a voice, the leaders were assuming teachers knew things, and they were learning that, I thought you knew. And so when we went through this process, that was really nice to see that come out. And the last day they actually had to present after they did all the work, we went to every building, and it was nice because we saw like it all come together where teachers were like actually excited with leaders saying, this is what we want this to look like, and here's what we want our cafeteria to look like, and here's what we want our, and it really took
Yeah.
a lot of work in a very short amount of time.
In a short, and you're going to see in a moment, and again, we'll certainly do some Q&A after, because when you look at the next part on April 20th, you got to remember, first of all, you need to have shared expectations before you know how to respond to them. And so one of the things we look at is the building agreement on behavior levels of minor and middle behavior infractions. Let me give you an example. What does tardy to class mean? So does tardy to class mean is 1 minute after the bell? Or does it mean 30 seconds after the bell? Or does it mean you get one bad, you could be tardy one time, and then the next time I'll write you up. So you see what I'm saying? They need to get together with those, because you can see a disparity within a given grade level or even a content area of somebody who has written 8 referrals for the year and someone who's written 205. And so what happens, and again, not judging, but you got to have what those are, because that might send, your comfort level might be one thing, but then all of a sudden, I know, I thought I could be late a minute, but you can't. And so whatever that is that's what we mean. I'm giving one example of a shared expectation, or being ready for class is a shared expectation. Well, what does that look like for a 4th grader? What does that look like for a 6th grader? What does that look like? When we talk about be ready for class, we've been taught that's a 30,000 level foot word. We want ground level. You know what ground level means? That you are sitting in your seat, you have your pencil out, I'm just saying, you know what I mean, and you're ready to go and to learn. So I think those are the things, because then the building, so because what that happens, when you talk about a level of minor and middle infractions, we know what the major infractions are. And those are, again, your fights, your assaults, and just different things that are spelled out. What we're really talking about is those minor infractions, again, being tardy, not cutting class, you know what I mean, being tardy for class, just some other little minor ones. Now, what could be considered a middle? Well, what could be considered a middle is that, you know what, Mrs. Ryan, this only happens once in a while, but all of a sudden now it's happening 10 times a month. And that now becomes a little bit more of a chronic behavior. It's not bad behavior, but chronic behavior. And then that's going to be helpful, because we do have a support. I'm just going to give an example of youth development specialists or something that can work with some of those chronic behaviors before they get serious behaviors. But unless we get together at ground level of what those infractions are, it's going to help us know how to respond to those areas. And I'm not saying that that's not being done in certain areas, but we want that done universally K-12. And if we have groups of folks that are doing it that way, we're going to, and we do. And actually we do in the district, and we have certain grade levels that we've seen some things, and certain grade, and we'll model that. So I don't want you to think, so those, when you look at that second April 20th, it's removal of student, when is that necessary? Removal needs to be written. Again, when you also put a referral in, we want to be consistent. Not consistent with what is the language we're using. And then, of course, the biggest thing is, how do we respond? Are the administrators responding? And I think this is the key piece that I heard is, yeah, maybe they're responding, but it's that communication follow-back loop to that teacher or that individual that would like to know what the outcome was. And I don't necessarily mean suspension or was, whatever that was. And I think that was a huge, am I right? A huge piece when you said communication. But I think that was April 20th, correct?
I will tell you, on that day, it was interesting because K through 3 is a little different, because there you have those students all day, right? And they don't share their students. Where in high school you share students, and junior high you share students. And they had one of the buildings had a really good discussion, and this is exactly what Dr. Reed was talking about that consistency. They had horseplay as one of the minors. And they actually got into a deep discussion of what horseplay was, because one teacher thought it was one thing and another teacher thought it was another. And so when they really started talking about, well, if we send out a kit for horseplay, what do we mean by that? Because then your principal's sitting there going, you consider this horseplay, and then you consider, and it really
was good conversation.
A really good conversation. I think teachers were,
Jack got suspended.
yeah.
I got suspended for horseplay.
Teachers were shocked that other people had different interpretations of little things like that.
And that's what we mean by minor and things like that. I think there was a value, because it's 2 things. Remember, the last 2 years we have worked in isolation, okay? So that is number one. But also in an elementary world, unlike, sometimes in secondary, you really do. You have self-contained classrooms, and in fairness, you don't have that value sometimes of that collaboration where you can do that. So this was a great opportunity to press pause and have those conversations. And again, we're not done. We just are, we made good progress. So then we move on to May 4th, again, taking another look at the final shared building expectations. We wanted to get ready for that June 1st retreat we have. You see, it's a little bit of repeat because, it was kind of like, how you put everything up there and then you start kind of wheeling it down a little bit. How we address redirecting behavior, and that kind of goes to our conscious discipline. And I know that might mean, I don't want to mean different things, but for age groups, it might mean different things. But again, we want to be kind of, you can't be 1 year, we're doing this in second grade, and the next year in third grade, it's a little bit different. We want to, when you have that consistency in how we do that, the children also learn from there. Final draft process, when addressing student behavior is presented at the June 1st meet. And then, I guess, is there anything you want to say there before we get into the June 1st?
I just wanted to add, when we made our rounds to all the buildings on June 1st, it was cool to see the BLTs and the BACs, building leadership teams and the building advisory committees actually running the meetings. The principals were up there with them, but to have that teacher invoice, to have that teacher input, just put my principal hat on. Teachers are more receptive to colleagues versus having to hear the principal all the time, and to see that built together. And that piece of it, I think, is what's really gonna give this legs. And knowing already, it's nice for the teachers to leave knowing that there's a shell built, that there's gonna be a few edits, but when they come back, 80 to 90% of it was already done. They know the expectations coming in, so I think that piece was critical.
Thank you, Abby. Anybody else good? So when you look at our June 1st retreat, was a little bit of, every building principal got a chance to report out. We gave some initial feedback. My homework and our team's homework is actually to go back through those and give some actual feedback to be able to, we want some things that are that need to be the same. We all have to have the same vision, mission, and our core beliefs. And, our core beliefs is, are our values, is what we value. And I actually think we've gotten to the levels that maybe our students need to start to write about them. And I think that's important because it needs to be embedded, because if it doesn't get down to the student level, they're just words. And I think that's a really important. So when you look at number 2 there, your instructional, we need to make sure that we are all speaking what our K-12 instructional vision are. We are an instructional institution. And I think that's something, again, is not designed solely by the superintendent, but collectively by the educators within the district. And then again, you can see some repetitiveness here because that's what we worked on, expectations, syllabi expectations. And, really look at, and this was more secondary, is really when you look at a syllabi is really maybe having some commonality. I am a college instructor, and I know that there's certain universities like to see certain things in your syllabi, and then in each class, if you all were teaching a different class, there is some consistency. That does make it easier on the students, and also, knowing what, those consistencies. So looking, what is a syllabi? Some people have different expectations of what that is. It does make it easier for the students to absorb what that is when there is some consistencies within the body of a syllabi, and what does that do? Same with classroom management plans, and that's again, maybe there's, I know at K3 there seem to be more of a template of different things that they have for classroom management plans. Secondary might look a little bit different, in that I think sub plans is really important, because there was a point in my career I actually did when I was raising my kids, worked as a substitute, and there's nothing better than 2 things when I substituted. When I knew there were routines in the classroom, that made my life easier, and it makes a substitute's life easier. And also having plans also keeps students engaged, and you have less discipline issue. And substitutes is the way of life. I mean, I was a building principal. It happens. We have parents, teachers who are parents. Kids get sick, it happens. And so I think that's really important. And you could really tell when you went into a classroom that had pretty laid out already, made my life easier because there were expectations. In fact, they kept the other kids in line sometimes. You know, so, and then this is a huge piece, is parent communication. This is all going to be fine and dandy. And if we truly want to make a difference and an impact, then we have to be deliberate with ongoing parent communication. So what happens at the beginning of the year, we get really good, we have these orientations, it's like an event, and then it falls off the plate. And I think as part of the communication plan and principles I was telling them to watch tonight, is that we really need to have a communication plan of how this is going to be ongoing with their families. There's nothing like getting reinforcement from home, but in fairness, if we don't really lay that out either, they don't know. And I think that's the piece where, we're really looking at that. Again, TBTs, you don't need about that, removal of students, professionalism, and so we look at building operations, the roles of your human capital, including who to go to if you are doing a walkthrough. I'm actually going to talk on the district level. Been really doing a lot of thinking on this. When we were in COVID, we had to, there was a time that we only met that first year virtually. And it really kind of changes the nature of your relationship and work. And what tends to do is you work in silos because you got to get it done. There's no time to walk over to someone's office or do something like that. And so what happens is that you have this time that gets filled with a void, and sometimes it gets with not bad behaviors, but sometimes you just try to get things done. And then now this year, what we discovered is we need to bring some more clarity in the roles of our central office team, which will help the building level. And it's not so, a lot of our roles cross over, but it's really like who's accountable. I think that's the key thing. Who's accountable for this area? Who's accountable for that area? And then there's times where what we have to do is, yes, we may be, Mr. Capel may be accountable for this area, but then he needs to know that he needs to leverage or leverage somebody else's expertise. And I'm only using him as an example because that's the nature of our work. That couldn't happen during COVID. And so what I'm telling folks is we're looking at every bit of our organization of really how we can continue to improve and be effective. Not making excuses. I'm explaining what the last 2 years have been like in being able, it's kind of like I was talking to somebody today at one point, and he gave a really good analogy, and I'm going to date myself for Bugs Bunny here, and it would be that railroad track, and as the trains move and that track is being laid down right before it. There were times when we were laying that track down, and all of a sudden we got something from the state, and we had to pivot and go that way. That has literally been our lives, and so we feel for the first time that we are starting to breathe, and we're starting to plan. And you can see, I'm not, we're not words. We put it down here, and and again, so that's a few things we look at. I think it's important at the building level. You talk about roles, is really how do we utilize our assistant principals? Which assistant principal is responsible for this? Again, accountability, youth development specialists, school counselors, social workers. Safety services, and different things like that. So those are things that we're looking at every aspect. And I don't want to say redefining, and sometimes redefining it, but really communicating it. I think that's the key thing. So I want to go over next steps a little bit, and then see if you, actually talk about a few of our initiatives, and then see if you have any questions. So really, we are already planning for our August retreat, which will be the first week of August when our principals return. We are on the table work year-round here. So we will have that and refined expectations. We'll actually do some work session with them. This one here, the building principals will continue to work with teachers and other building level staff on refining expectations and procedures. And I think that's what Mr. Capel was speaking to. They've gotten a lot of work done, but sometimes it's good to walk away from it, come back and put that lens on and really, I'd like to think in some cases, some things won't change, but other things as you go through this year will be a working document, realize we're about innovation, and innovation is doing things better. And I think that's the piece where, so here's, again, I talked to building principals will develop communication plans for students and parents. Really, it's key. And I think that's what happens is we start off good, we set the tone, and then we get busy and we get down in the weeds and we forget to do that. And then building teams will be invited to present at board work sessions. And what I mean by building teams is there are teams that have put this together, and that would include, I'd like to invite the teachers. I'd like to invite, actually our principals need to be there, our assistant principals. And then we seldom invite our classified staff. And if they've been a part of this, again, safety services, they need to come. So what I'd like to do is, we've put all this work together, and I'm just talking about it. And so I think, you know how we have work sessions, I think it would really be great to them come and let them present of how things are going, what they're thinking about, and I would like the community to see it too. So I thought that would be something we would do at our work sessions. And then we are, again, a work in progress. We really feel, like I said, I really feel like I'm not typing up COVID communications. I'm not attending the Cuyahoga County Board of Health meetings like every other week like I was for 3 hours. And so a few things in progress. Really excited about Quick Med. We tried to get that open last year, and COVID, we had some staffing issues, other things. Two things I would like to say is really excited about Quick Med because we have a Quick Med clinic, but in each of our buildings now, Quick Med has won the contract to be what we just call clinic services. And so when you have one organization with the same type of workflow and different things, I think you're really going to see a big enhancement for our families and also for our staff. And there's just a lot of stuff that we have planned. And once we, everything from wellness, doing wellness fairs, we like to get down to vaccinations, immunizations. We really want, if we really are going to be the destination school community, we want this to be a one-stop and really, help our families out. And how this can work is, you could have a child that has an ear infection in the clinic, and it used to be I had to leave work and go pick up my child and then try to get an appointment to the doctor and then get the medication. As a working parent, that's hard, and it's really hard to get appointments. And so really what can happen here is really we have a nurse practitioner that is at the, just giving you one scenario, is at the clinic, and so it could be, the child can be transported to the clinic. The nurse practitioner sees the child, the script is written, parent comes, pick the child up, go to CVS, and it's filled. And and so I just want to tell you that's the vision. And this has not been easy. I've been working with Malika Bussey and Melissa Thompson, and we really struggled for a little bit, but we are rebooting, and stick with us here. We really think we didn't want to be status quo, and we've had some growing pains here, but it's going to be a great opportunity for everybody. So there, and then ArcFit Upper. ArcFit Upper plans were really for staff, and you have ArcFit Lower where a lot of students are, and we were really starting to try to get some programs underway for the health and wellness of our staff, and then COVID hit and we had to close that down. And so we have hired a new performance and wellness specialist that his job is twofold, to work with students, but also to work with the staff. And one of the things, and again, just brainstorming here, Ms. Bussey is now working with equity and engagement, and so this is going to come under her umbrella of engaging staff. Working with the performance wellness specialist is really using that ArcFit Upper. And I'm just going to give you an example. If you've not been in there, you have one side that has different workout machines. You have the middle, which looks like a kitchen, and then you have the other side that looks like more of a dance, yoga and different things. Well, the whole idea is really to have different types of wellness things, maybe a smoothie night where people come in and see, and there's a demonstration done or after work. Not everybody wants to work out on a workout machine. There's people that like line dancing. What I found out when we reopened it up, there'd be teachers in there, and some teachers were working with other teachers, and so it started to give me an idea of maybe we can offer these little 4-week programs where those that want to line dance at 4 o'clock on Tuesdays can go over here. Those that want to know something else and really tap into, yes, Mr. Morrow can write plans for folks. There's a couple things we can do. I don't know if you know, we have something like this. It's called Fitness on the Demand. It's a software program. So Ms. King, you might, have something you want to work on this, but Ms. Falkenberg might want to work on that. But, obviously he can't be everywhere. And you can work on some individual plans and go in there on your own. But some people are some people like individual stuff, and then some people are really social. And so one of the things that we're thinking about is maybe we could offer these little sessions and, put a survey out to teachers or all staff. Doesn't have to be teachers. We have secretaries that have certain skills and that. And what would you like to teach? And I don't know whether we can, where we get funds as I look to the treasurer. But, there's certain things with regards to, I'll look for grants. Maybe I'll look for a grant. Yeah, or wellness. We used to actually get some wellness money. And from the wellness, we had a wellness committee and be able to say, like, you know what, we'll do a 4-week program. Who wants to sign up? And I really think that'll be two things. It's educators tend to be very social. I'm one, and they really do. And I think this is a nice way to get people back out into there. So we're going to utilize ArcFit Upper, and I think it'll be a lot of fun. So we are really looking at that. Ms. Falkenberg, I read some of the articles that you gave me back. You dropped them off about a month ago, and just different things. And I started to realize that teachers need it as well. But I actually had some of my veteran administrators said this is the toughest year they've ever been through, building principals, and they need it too. I've had food service worked through everything. And, so I really think when you look at it, we have as many employees as we does, that was the vision of ArcFit Upper. And I'm kind of excited, and I'm glad about it. Remind me about the wellness dollars there, and really think that this is something we're also going to get off the ground. So the next part is safety plans and threat assessment. I'm going to have Mr. Cape, are you speaking to this? Okay.
So, taking over the safety services role for the district, as MT would say, tag you're it. So some of the things that we've been working on, actually had a good meeting today, MT and I both did, with a couple members of CELTA. Dr. Reed and I have a meeting coming up with both chiefs of police and the mayors.
Yes.
And we're going over, you're going to see a lot more communication coming out in terms of safety and security. I don't think it's something that you hide. I think it's something that you promote that we do. We're going to have an Alice calendar of all of our training dates that are set. There's going to be quarterly newsletters sent out to all stakeholders. So that includes community members, everybody that lives in our district, just so they know of everything that we do here, whether it's cameras, drills, safety initiatives. We are going through our safety guard protocols right now. One thing that Mr. Fording talked about that I utilized at Memorial, and that we're going to continue to use district-wide, is checklists for our security guards. And I think that's critical for parents and staff to know what they're doing, so that they're checking doors, exterior doors, that they're checking things between classes, different things like that. We are also the AED, CPR, and CPI training for our security guards. Mr. Williamson has that all set up. We're going to have a full calendar of chiefs meetings, CIDs with the topics, we're going to do monthly SEL security and admin status meetings that will include a security guard from each grade level down, so everybody has a say. Some different documents that the principals are already starting to upload in their shared drives, their lockdowns, their fire drills. We're going to be doing tabletops as well. It's coming down from the ODE. We're going to have a chain of command communication, school threat assessment teams. We have a district safety plan, but it's like when I used to hand my staff the staff handbook and they'd roll their eyes and put it in the back of their binders, right? But we're going to make cheat sheets off of those, quick guides. There's also some new grants coming out. I don't want to get too far ahead, but I want to give Mike Murphy and Pete Plaza a little credit. Just got issued a little over 200 grand, which was it was the highest amount in the state. So you're going to see some new locking systems coming in 23-24. You can thank COVID that they're not in now. That's fair enough on shipping, Mr. Murphy.
Everything's slower.
Also continue the work MT did with the Stop the Bleed buckets in conjunction with the fire departments. And also at Memorial, I think it's at the high school, we're going to make sure all the buildings are equipped with the Raptor system. The Raptor system is when somebody comes in, once you get through we used to call it the double gates, but once you get through the double doors then you got to Miss Heitman, you gotta give them the driver's license, yes, Miss Lee. And you gotta, goes into the system does a quick check, sex offender check, high degree felonies, basically if you're not supposed to be on school premises, and it prints you out a name tag. I always tell parents, from a parent perspective, it's not personal. I would hope I hope my kids go through the same thing. My wife does it when she would come to visit. You go through, you don't get through Miss Heitman without putting that in. So those are just some of the different things. And I think the communication piece, we talked about it through Dr. Reed's presentation here. As I was telling a couple of our teachers today, was I think a lot of it's just a little lax. We're doing a lot. We miss some drills and things as I'm going through all of this, all of these things. And Mr. Williams and I are going to go around to each staff meeting at the beginning of the year, just giving a quick 10-minute bullet point of everything that we're doing. I'm working with Jim Crooks on those monthly or quarterly bulletins, because the number one deter is letting people know how much safety and security that you have and all the things that we're doing. I know right now it's heightened. We're not going to hide behind that. That was a sad thing that happened in Texas. And I know a lot of people, it's all over the news. It's not good, but we're going to do everything in our power to make sure those type of things don't happen. And we had our first little incident the other day. After school was over, everything was locked up, and it was smooth sailing with the local PD, and it worked out really well, the communication aspect. I talked with Chief Mays today, and so really excited for next Tuesday for our chiefs and mayors meeting. And then really excited to, after meeting with John and a couple other teachers today, really excited to show everybody everything that we're doing and going from there, and letting everybody know who our security guards are. We're gonna do a little bio. They're gonna hate me, but everybody's gonna be listed in the newsletters on who they are, what they do, because back in Memorial, those guys distributed Leadership 101. They have a lot to do, and everybody knew Mr. Ray had the second floor. And everybody knew where Mr. Shorts was and what his designation was, and Mr. Vickers, and they play a critical piece. So I think it's critical to show off those guys and our SROs. MT did unbelievable with them. I think we're going to miss Officer tomorrow quite a bit. I think she's finally leaving.
Yes.
Trying to maybe bring her back, but we are fortunate. We have one from each police department, and a lot of school districts can't say that we have multiple, and that they work so jointly together. So. Those are just some of the many things that are going to be coming down the tubes, and they'll be updating you guys as much as possible as we go.
Thank you. One of the things that's not up here, but maybe think about it, Ms. Thompson, and not to put you on the spot.
But remember, I thought it was kind of a neat, last year we piloted the Career Connections and SEL teachers. But you want to share a little bit as, because it's an ongoing initiative, and it does tie into this, and maybe about the idea that the student gave and how to change the name. I thought it was kind of neat.
So thank you, Dr. Reed. So the board will recall that we approved the opportunity for us to add the Career Connections and SEL course. And so throughout this school year, Ms. Bussey has worked with the Career Connections teachers and working on highly qualified with them in that manner, and also with Dr. Continenza, but also just reassessing where we started versus where we are and where we would like to go, and strengthen the programming in that way. That the goal, the desire was to help reinforce our core beliefs, who we are as a school district, and helping our young people, K-12, to understand what it means to be an ARC, the SEL way, and really spending time, intentional time on what that looks like, what that means, and that alignment that's necessary. So during the summer so far, they've had one opportunity for a curriculum writing day, and they were working through some things. And in the conversation, the teachers at Greenview were commenting on assessing their students and getting feedback in real time from their students, and talking about the name. Some have called it, SEL, some have called it Career Connections, and it's been all over the map. And so a student gave the idea of needing to keep connections, and decided that it should be ARC Connections. And so now forward, we will call Career Connections and SEL now ARC Connections. And so I thought it was pretty, amazing that, our students are involved in every way in the work that we do in the district. So that was really a cool thing. The teachers will be coming back in August to continue work. And one of the things that they even said was to have the opportunity to share with their colleagues the work that they're doing. Because there is some misunderstanding, okay, so what exactly is this? What's the return on this? How is this working? But also recognizing that some are seeing it, and they're saying that it's translating into the other classes, and the students are taking the learnings and applying it. So that's a great thing, and that's what we want to celebrate. So if I can, Dr. Reed, just move right into the continuous
Yes.
improvement of our mental health services, including suicide prevention. Certainly with House Bill 123, there are some requirements that we have relative to suicide prevention, and that's important. Certainly connecting with what Mr. Capel indicated concerning the threat assessments. We'll work toward that end of making those connections that when students are experiencing challenges, certainly our school counselors, our school social workers do a phenomenal job in addressing those needs, and getting families, getting parents, getting students the help that they need. We're going to strengthen that. Revisiting the referral process. When a student and a family is in crisis, when they need support, how best to access those services. Protocols, procedures, those things that we know are important for our staff to know, all staff to know, not just those that are delivering the direct service or making those referrals to our outside agencies, but also to our teaching staff, so that they're aware if a child has been hospitalized, to the degree possible. Of course, not all information can be shared, and it must be protected. However, to the degree that it helps that teacher in the classroom know how best to support a student, we want to make sure that they're included in that conversation. So hopefully you'll see some change, you'll hear some change that's being discussed around the district and throughout the district. As always, if there's anything that needs to be shared for me, for continuous improvement and feedback, always open to that feedback. I'm wanting to know so that we can continue to improve our services.
Well, I appreciate you. Thank you for being very patient, and, for about an hour here, we've been able to give you kind of like a holistic scope, and just want to let you know, all of this is really kind of in progress, but I think we got some really exciting things.
So I don't know whether you, have any questions or follow-up that you'd like to ask the group here.
I just wanted to comment on, one of my favorite things that I saw posted from the Art Connections was at Roland when the third graders did a signing day. I just thought that was amazing, and I hope more of the schools do that.
If that's something we can implement
Well,
now.
and
that was
honestly,
awesome.
when we came together as a team, it was great because they were able to share ideas. They don't always get that opportunity, and so just wanting to build upon that. So it was excellent work that Ms. Jones did at the school with the Roland students, and so wanting to, create those shared experiences so that every student can have those opportunities. So, yeah. So stay tuned, more is coming.
I have a couple questions. For the Career Connections course, what type of credit is that, like at the high school?
So it is an elective credit. It is not a pass-fail. So
Right.
it's a graded course.
So would they get, is it like sociology or psych, or is there a particular?
It's not fitting into that. It's just an
Oh, okay.
elective credit. It doesn't
Okay.
fit into
All right.
it's an elective credit.
Yeah,
But-
okay. Got it.
But I think we're hoping to do that to a pathway to
Yeah.
transition.
Yes, as part of our sales, our graduation sales, we're working through that.
Okay,
Where that if a student has the opportunity to participate, but I think it's still under development because we
Right.
have to make sure that in order for it to count, each time the student is taking the course, it's building so
Yeah.
that it works through that. We made some changes this school year so that it's only gonna be offered either 9th or 10th grade or 11th or 12th grade, and it's going to be
Oh.
dependent upon whether the student is participating in, the Excel Tech program
Right.
or some
Right.
other opportunity. So it's still a work in process and under development.
And
since
if
you brought it
yeah,
up,
and if I, wait, if I could, because when you look at it is, if you're gonna go our connections as a ninth grader, it better look different as a 10th grader,
Right.
11th grader, 12th grader, right? You know what I mean? So I think that's the piece where we talk about,
you know, if kids are actually at Excel Tech and there's different, it's one, you know, they're already getting a pretty full schedule. So we want to offer it as, I think you said what, a 10th and 12th grade?
Yeah, so it will be 9th and 10th.
Okay, sorry.
9th or 10th.
9th or 10th.
And then 11th or 12th.
And it'll look
How
different.
we have it
Yeah,
set up. So
yes.
it's, students are getting credit for it. It is a graded course.
Right.
And at this point, as it relates to the SILS conversation, we're working
Yeah.
through how that will look to make sure that it does meet whatever requirements are necessary under the
For
Department of Education.
graduation, I get
And
it.
so Ray, Jen, and myself are going to Columbus with the Career Connections Conference that will be occurring in July. And so 2 of our new assistant principals here at Rush
Yes.
are attending, as well as Eddie Hall, so that we can have those conversations, get information in real time.
Looks like a great conference.
With regard to developing our program further.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I have a couple more
Sure,
questions.
sure.
This is for Dom. What are tabletops?
Tabletops, so
I mean, I know.
part of,
Kinda
Mike knows a little bit about.
Scenarios.
All right.
Tabletops is like a scenario, so, Homeland Security actually comes and says, hey, a truck blew up, there's chemicals in the air, what are you doing as a school? What's your first thing?
Okay.
What's your second thing?
Got
So it's
it.
more of a discussion about that emergency
So,
situation.
so it's kind of neat about, actually, I have participated in quite a few tabletops, and so has Ms. Thompson. And so, a lot of times what she'll do is, for instance, you have a high school principal there, you may have a security guard, you'll have, different people around the table, and literally what you have is you get in front of you, get a scenario. And what you start to do is really talk through how different people would react. And you know what I mean? And it's, I've participated as a principal and I've participated as a superintendent. And so I think that's the piece where it's just, it's probably the first step, Mike, would you agree, like of getting the dialogue moving again? You know what I mean? And then
Okay.
just, yeah.
Got it, so discussion. I'm sorry if this, the Alice training, is that going to be including students this year?
Oh,
It
I have
always
that.
did.
We have done it
Yeah.
before at the elementary level.
Yeah, so
we did.
what,
Yeah.
answer your question, absolutely.
Okay.
Also, it's going to include law enforcement.
Okay.
I was fortunate at Memorial, working with Chief Nieder pretty closely, and he actually came to all of my Alice drills, and they would be located outside and inside, and him and I were the intruders, so we knew where we were, and then as the announcements would come, some, like Science Wing, for example, they got the closest exterior door, they would bolt out if we were on the second
Right,
floor,
okay.
if they were comfortable doing so, and the police would be out there, and they were, you know, acting like it was an actual
Right.
intruder, yelling, get going,
Right.
where to go, different things like that, because the best way to do drills is live and
Yeah.
as possible, and to
They
have
need to
that,
feel
have
that,
that commotion, to have different things. Some of the police officers inside the building would make noises, they would have
Right.
clappers, they would do as much as they could to really try and simulate what
Yes.
that's gonna feel like.
I don't know if they remember, and this might not have been at the high school, but probably, this is all pre-COVID. I can tell you that we did involve our students in the training. I know Mr. Capretta was our intruder, and he went into the buildings, and what we did was, we were trying to also, I have a pretty integral camera system, and we were sitting in my conference room to see if that would be of a help to the building principal, because we could pull up multiple cameras, and a lot of times when you are in the building as a principal, you don't have, you're isolated, and we could have eyes on spots that they didn't. And I think that's, so again, we were, it's time to revisit that and do, some of the different things. But, that's, again, what we're, tabletop is one thing, but actual, you got to remember, not only do our students need it and our staff need it, this is also a help to our police department. They get that opportunity to be able to do that as well, so.
Yeah.
That comes down to another piece, is the communication piece. Young principal, I learned, thin line, because you want to practice as live or simulate as much as possible. At the same time, you want to communicate to parents, because
Right.
cell phones are going to come out pretty quick, and all of a sudden we're in an Alice lockdown and I'm doing a drill, right?
Yeah.
So it's that communication to parents and that trust from the parents to know when and how to react to those
Yeah.
things.
If I can add one more, because I really have to give a shout out to Joe Alessandro and Pete Palazzo. So really, when you look at a screen, if you look up here and you would think you got 9 different images, they totally amazed me. They could know exactly what hallway that was and where it was at. And that's kind of a key thing where it's, not kind of, it is approaching. Because you got to remember too, even if somebody is watching it from outside that's not used to it, they may not recognize it. And Pete and them are just like, because they know all the spots. They can immediately identify and say, and again, fake intruder, but intruder is in the B wing by X, and because they know where everything's at. And so we were again going through a run through to think of, how could we be of assistance as a command center while there's a drill going on in the building and things like that. So just examples.
All right, this is my last question, I promise.
All right.
Because this is Ohio, some of our leaders are suggesting arming teachers. Is that something that we are discussing, that is off the table? Or-
If you want to know my opinion as a school superintendent,
Oh, I know
I don't believe that's the way to go for our district. We have too many other things in place. If I can comment, and again, I try not to make judgment statements about other places in Ohio. Years ago, that came out because the concern in some, again, this was the discussion, the concern in some rural areas was it would take a very long time to get first responders to a school, and it might be safer to have somebody who's been trained and armed, and that conversation came out of that. Well, again, not all school districts are created equal or have the resources. In my opinion, if my board is asking my opinion, I don't feel that this is a place for guns for our teachers or our staff. We have too many other resources close by in hand, and that would be my recommendation.
Do you think that it is worth releasing a statement? I know Stephanie brought that up to me a couple of weeks ago.
If I have the support of the board, I definitely,
Our policy is no weapons.
Our current policy is that we're
Yeah.
no carry.
maybe we could reiterate that,
So,
yeah.
If we're gonna stick with that, I don't think when we talk about it, it probably doesn't hurt to put out a statement saying that we are going to
Yeah.
We will,
continue to be a no carry policy.
yeah, we will certainly do that. Kind of was waiting to see how everybody else felt here. It didn't take me too long to let you know how I felt, so,
I think we're all in agreement with that.
Yes.
okay. We'll get that done.
I would say kudos, this is, Stephanie and I have been over here whispering back and forth. And literally every time we would whisper an idea or say something, you had, the next sentence was, what you all would do as well. So,
appreciate that.
I do, I say kudos to it, and I will say, I can say as a parent, I think some of our teachers actually do have this already. As a parent, I have received emails already of syllabus for my 9th grader coming into Brush. I've had a student here in Brush before, that didn't happen. I've heard other parents talk. I've been stopped by 3 parents within the past week who literally said, okay, we know the past 2 years are tough, so what do we have to do this year as parents? Can you sit down with me and explain to me what I need to do as a parent to make sure that I'm helping my child succeed?
successful.
Because I see on you all's end, you're doing
Sure.
something. I spoke with, I've been out in the community doing different stuff for political stuff, and our school district has been a highlight, and it's been a highlight, because of our new principal, and just seeing how we are going to transition and what 2022 and what 2023 will hold for us. And I will say this to me is very impressive. It feels good. I will not lie. I was exhausted this past school year. This looks good to me, and this revitalizes me. It gives me energy. It makes us want to do, because it's hard sitting up here. We're not gonna lie. Like, it's hard getting emails, getting complaints, getting concerns, and even us as parents who have been in the building. This to me is very, very impressive. I appreciate it. Because you literally, Ray said she was going to do it. I appreciate you making good on your promise, because last year you said this, so I appreciate you making good on your promise. I feel comfortable, and I thank you.
I agree. I mean, that is a lot of work.
Yeah,
And a lot of things that have been frustrations for people for a long time. So the fact that it was identified and a plan was made and people from all areas were involved and you followed through is, definitely a positive. I do have one concern with the communication. I think I've mentioned this to Mr. Capel before. As a parent, because of our systems, you only get one email address. So like, when we get those main SEL, like
Okay.
not your superintendent
Okay.
updates, like whoever signs up for those gets those. But like if you fill out the blue cards, like Dan is like the number one email, so he gets the emails and I don't. And he didn't realize that I didn't get them. So, and I think that happens with a lot of people. Yeah, and so then he started forwarding them to me when he realized there were
I was
things
just
I
speaking about
didn't
my
know.
my own
Yes.
household.
But then like when I get stuff from like Google Classroom, like we both get it. And so,
Oh,
but there's definitely
we'll
the
have to
stuff
look
that
at
comes
that.
through, based on those blue cards. I think it's based on the blue cards, only the first email address gets.
Artoria broke it down to me
Well,
last
that's
school year,
definitely
and
a
I had the same
concern.
question.
Yeah,
It's our system with Registration Gateway, Back to School Gateway. It's the system that we have. We try to have some workarounds for it. Certainly with Parent Link and how do you get things through Parent Link? Is it the same, is it always to him?
yeah. This has
Which ones come through Parent Link, I guess? That'd be the.
You know, one of the things I thought about is connections, the IT, or, is that what they are? No, they're, Connect.
Connect.
I think what we can maybe do is they have new leadership. And they've been pretty responsive to something. Maybe there is something that we can do that will get, what I'm hearing is multiple emails. Our system won't allow it. We'll tell them what system we have, what system, is there a workaround
Yes.
that can help us?
Yeah,
And
they'll probably either recommend a different system or at least tell us if it's possible to fix the
Right.
current system.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, or just determining like, because I know at the high school last year, sometimes, because Mr. Williamson used both. So like, we talk about expectations, like when do you email through Google?
And I think
Classroom or
that's part of
whatever,
the-
And versus like the Parent Link stuff and all of that, yeah, because different people get different
Different
emails
things.
done.
So one of the things, that's a great point, I don't have my pencil on me right now. Can you write that down there, thank you? Because when you talk about building principles, well, that's a great point, we'll develop communication plans. I think that's also like what platform? Because, can we streamline so parents are, who are receiving it, it's only as good as if the people understand who are receiving it and get it. So I think that's something that we can make note of. Thanks,
And are there certain emails that are so
Right.
important that we should call also and just say, hey, we emailed you, knowing that, because you can't.
People get busy.
I work with email as a living, and so you can't always control what the email providers do with your emails as well. And we also found out I was getting, stuff of mine was going to spam.
Yes.
During pandemic, because I wasn't getting any update stuff from Greg, and I was like, what the? And all of a sudden I realized everything was going to
Ms. Ryan is
spam.
not happy with me.
Yeah, and,
Building principal.
and so those things happen, and you all don't have any control over that, and parents don't realize that. I mean, that's the email
We have
provider.
parents saying, I'm not getting your stuff, and then
Yeah.
I would go to Christine, and she says, well, they've got it, tell them to go check their spam.
Yeah, and you have to, as a parent, you could waitlist it
Right,
and say,
right.
this, I
Yeah.
wanna get these, but people don't know that, so maybe if like it's something really important,
I will,
like,
I'll
send out a
credit, and
phone, too.
I will say kudos to Greenview for that, because they do that, like if there is an email that is coming
Okay.
out, you get the automated phone call. It was annoying, but it's good to know, because I could have
Honey.
missed some stuff, but you get the phone call saying, an
Check your email.
check your email went out short, I sent an email, or Superintendent Reed sent an email them out, just make sure that you, or email them out,
Sure.
I put the letters on it.
That's right.
Email, make sure that, you check your email, and then my stuff still sometimes goes to spam,
Yeah.
depending upon what it is. And then some of you, I know some building secretaries did like a separate list, and they would have like all the emails, so they would know.
That's a good thing we need to probably talk about at the retreat,
So-
how they communicate,
Yeah, I'll follow up with Christine
Yeah, and
tomorrow.
see what she,
To see what we can do as a workaround, if anything, and even before we release the portal for Back to School Gateway, if there's something that we can do to try to redirect or open up another,
and if that doesn't work too,
We'll
maybe we
see.
can explore if it's something else, because communication's important.
It
And
is.
if, you know what I mean, if that's gonna, if there can't be a workaround with Connect, then maybe there's another software that, again, I don't know, we could certainly look into that, but, so we're actually, believe it or not, I'm glad to hear that you guys are excited, because we've actually felt a sense of relief, we know our work's not done.
but we really feel like we've actually been able to concentrate on something that we feel is gonna have a positive impact to support our schools, our students, our teachers, our staff. And as you see, next steps, we're taking pressure on us. We don't want it to go away. This was not an event. I want to continue to bring the building teams at a work session, which is really great, because I think the community, if they want to listen in, can hear some of the different things that they're going and keep this focus on this, you know, for the entire year. And a lot of times, you know, maybe have to change less things moving forward. And that, so that concludes my discussion item. But we do have a couple personnel items. We have a few resignations and a few appointments. If we can go through that. Okay, I'm sorry, under 3.0, here I am just, under 3.0, recommending to the Board of Education, I'm still on Kelly's Island, to recommend the following certified staff. Their appointments, we have a couple of appointments here, and for Sunview and Greenview, and then we have a couple resignations. We certainly want to thank Aaron and Caitlin for their time here at SEL, and we wish them well. And that is for 3.0.
May we get a motion to approve item 3.1?
Second.
Ms. Falkenberg, any questions or comments? Hearing none, may we get a roll call, Mr. Hill?
Ms. Lee,
Aye.
Ms. Falkenberg,
Aye.
Mrs. Jones,
Aye.
Ms. King,
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan.
Aye.
Under 4.0, our classified staff recommending to the Board of Education to approve the following classified personnel. We have one appointment, and again, this appointment is due through a prior resignation earlier this spring.
May we get a motion to approve item 4.1?
So moved.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, may we get a roll call, Mr. Hill?
Ms. King,
Aye.
Ms. Lee,
Aye.
Ms. Falkenberg,
Aye.
Mrs. Jones,
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan.
Aye.
And item 5, executive session. I believe we have a need for a small executive session. Just to wrap up a few things regarding, where's my personnel thing?
Should be there.
Whatever
It's A.
one.
It's A, and then you just gotta pick the sub.
Oh, it's not,
Oh, okay. A and, no, we can just pick A, right?
Public employee. So it's just A, and then you do the sub, or you can say all.
We'll just say all.
Okay. So,
6:48. Can we get a motion to go into executive session?
So, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Tom, you're gonna sign out, or let me sign out?
Josh, you want us to just call you?
yeah, that's fine.
Have a good evening. We will see you next week at our public board meeting. Have a good evening.
They seem close together, don't they?